Obama gave a perfect eulogy. Then the widow leaned in and shattered him with 8 quiet words. The rain didn't fall, but the sky looked like it wanted to. A flat gray ceiling stretched over the military chapel, casting everything in a soft, dim light. Inside, the scent of old wood and fresh flowers hung in the air, quieting even the most restless hearts. Barack Obama stepped through the doors, his presence quiet but unmistakable. No press, no official entourage, just a black suit, worn shoes, and the expression of a man carrying a personal weight. He wasn't there as a politician, not today. The room was modest, wooden pews, a few hundred people, and at the center a flag-draped casket that seemed both grand and heartbreakingly ordinary. Staff Sergeant Thomas Holloway had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, been wounded twice, and earned a Silver Star. He wasn't a household name, but to his family, to his unit, and, unexpectedly, to Obama himself, he had mattered. Obama had been invited by Eleanor Holloway, the soldier's widow. Her letter hadn't been dramatic, it was brief, respectful. "He always believed in you, Mr. President. If you're able, say a few words. It would mean something." He sat quietly in the front row, hands folded, listening to the chaplain's voice roll through scripture and sorrow. He glanced at the folded flag, then at the pew across from him. A young boy clutched his mother's hand, too young to understand the full weight of the ceremony, but old enough to feel its absence. When the chaplain finished, a man in dress blues approached the lectern and introduced Obama. There was no applause, just a subtle shift as the room leaned forward. Obama rose slowly and walked up, unfolding a single sheet of paper he hadn't looked at in hours. He stood for a moment in silence. Then he began. "I didn't know Tom the way many of you did. I didn't fight beside him. I didn't share rations in the desert or stand watch through the night. But I did know of him. I read his file. I read his commendations. And I read a letter he wrote me." A murmur moved through the pews. "I received many letters as president. Most are forgotten, but his stayed with me. He didn't ask for anything. He didn't complain. He just reminded me that every strategy, every order, had a face behind it." A family Obama looked toward the casket. He wasn't just a soldier, he was a compass. One of those rare men whose honesty makes you better, even if you never meet him in person. The room was still. "I'm here not as a leader, but as someone who was shaped, quietly, by his words." He stepped down, leaving silence in his wake. People shifted in their seats, dabbing eyes, nodding. It was a good eulogy. It felt real. As he returned to his seat, Eleanor rose from hers and embraced him gently. She was older than he expected, early 60s, with deep eyes and hands that looked like they had seen hard work. She leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "He died thinking you betrayed him." Obama didn't react, not outwardly, but something inside him clenched. She stepped back without waiting for a reply and returned to her place beside her son. Obama sat back down, suddenly aware of the tightness in his chest. The ceremony continued. More words, a slow hymn, the sound of boots on marble as the honor guard prepared to carry the casket out. But he wasn't hearing any of it. His mind had cracked open a vault he thought was long sealed. He remembered that letter now. Not just the words, but the feeling behind them. "Mr. President," it had said, "I don't envy your position. I only ask that you remember, every strategy you sign off on has a heartbeat behind it. Every troop withdrawal, every base closure, that's someone's son packing up his life, someone's daughter saying goodbye again." Obama had read it late one night in the West Wing, under dim light, his sleeves rolled up and a cold coffee at his side. He remembered circling it with a pen, writing, "Respond personally" in the margin. But he never did. Too many meetings, too many crises, too many fires to put out. And now the man was dead. At the burial site, the wind picked up slightly, lifting the corner of the flag. The family gathered under a white canopy as the casket was lowered into the ground. A boy stood to speak, maybe 13, with an oversized blazer and a voice that cracked halfway through his first sentence. "Uncle Tom used to tell me that war doesn't change a man, it reveals him." He paused, looked at the ground, then finished. "I think it revealed that he was brave, that he cared, even when he didn't have to." Obama turned slightly. Those words hit something raw. He thought about all the decisions, the late nights, the drone briefings, the moments when he had to weigh lives like numbers on a board. What had those choices revealed about him? After the final salute and taps, as the last guests began to disperse, Eleanor approached again. She held something in her hand wrapped in cloth. "He kept this next to his bed," she said. She handed it to him. He opened it slowly. It was a 2008 campaign pin. The enamel chipped, the edges worn down, HOPE still barely visible. Obama looked at it for a long time. "He really believed in you," she said. "I didn't know," he said. "I mean, I knew he wrote, but I didn't know I meant that much to him." She gave a sad smile. "He was proud of you, even when he disagreed. That's what made it so hard for him." A long pause stretched between them. "I still have his journals," she added. "I haven't read them. Maybe someday." "Maybe someday I could read them too," Obama said. She nodded. As he walked back toward the parking lot, an older man in a faded army cap rose from a bench nearby. "You got a second, Mr. President?" Obama stopped. "Carter, I served with Tom. Third deployment." They shook hands. "He talked about you all the time," Carter said. "Said you were the first politician he ever trusted." Obama looked down. "I let him down." Carter shrugged. "He didn't hate you. That's the thing people get wrong. He didn't turn on you. He was just hurt. He expected more, because he thought you were one of the good ones." The two men stood there in silence for a moment. "You know," Carter continued, "he said something to me once that stuck. We weren't fighting for medals. We were fighting for meaning. I think he just wanted to know it mattered." "It did," Obama said. "He mattered." He drove back in silence, the pin still in his hand. That night, alone in his study, he opened an old leather box filled with letters from his presidency. There it was, Holloway's letter. The ink slightly faded, but the words still sharp. "I'm not asking for policy, just presence, just awareness, just remember us." Obama sat with it for a long time. Then he picked up a pen and began to write. The letter was short, honest. "I failed to respond before. I won't fail again. Your husband's voice didn't just speak truth, it echoed. I carry him with me now." He folded it carefully, slid it into an envelope, and addressed it by hand. Then he took the campaign pin and set it next to the letter. Not on a shelf, but in a drawer he opened every day. He didn't need a headline or a photo op. Some debts are repaid in silence. 3 days later, early in the morning before the sun had fully risen, Obama returned to the cemetery. No one knew he was coming. No aides, no drivers. He parked the car himself at the far edge of the lot and walked the long gravel path toward the burial plot. The ground was still damp from last night's drizzle. Leaves clung to his shoes. The air smelled of wet earth and something older, like memory itself had a scent. He found the headstone freshly placed, simple, understated. Staff Sergeant Thomas Holloway, beloved husband, brother, son, patriot. War doesn't change a man, it reveals him. Obama stood there motionless for a long while. No umbrella, no speech. Just a man with something unfinished in his chest. From his coat pocket, he took out a small, clear plastic pouch. Inside was the handwritten letter he'd composed to Eleanor, and beside it, the campaign pin, now clean but still scarred from time. He knelt down and found a loose, flat stone at the edge of the grass. He dug under it with his bare hands, pulling up enough earth to tuck the pouch beneath. Then he placed the stone back carefully, gently pressing it down with his palms. "I should have written you back," he whispered, "but you weren't forgotten." He remained kneeling, eyes closed. In his mind he saw Holloway's face, not from a photograph, but how he imagined it. Gritty, principled, maybe even stubborn. The kind of man who held people accountable, not out of hate, but hope. He realized now that Holloway hadn't written that letter to criticize him. He'd written it to remind him, to anchor him. Leadership had a way of numbing you. You start making decisions in rooms filled with numbers and graphs, and slowly, the people become pixels. Holloway had tried to bring him back to the ground. Obama stood and stepped back. Then, without fanfare, he brought 2 fingers to his brow and gave a final, silent salute. He turned and walked away without looking back. That evening, back at his home, Michelle found him in his office, staring out the window. The desk behind him unusually cluttered with old files and faded photos. She walked in quietly, sensing something in the air. "Everything okay?" she asked softly. He nodded, but it took him a moment. "I gave a speech," he said, "at a funeral." "I know, but that wasn't the part that stayed with me." She stepped closer, placing a hand on his shoulder. "What did?" He turned toward her, eyes heavy but clear. "She whispered something to me. His widow said he died thinking I betrayed him." Michelle didn't answer, just waited. "But I think what she really meant," he continued, "was that I mattered more to him than I realized. And that hurts more than any insult." Michelle nodded slowly. "That means you had an impact, even if it didn't end the way you hoped." He picked up the framed photo of Holloway, sent later by the family, a shot from that day on the base, the young soldier smiling in the background of a presidential visit. He stared at it. "I hope he'd forgive me," he said. "He already did," Michelle whispered. "He just needed you to carry him." Obama didn't say anything after that. He just stood there holding the photo. He didn't need a camera crew. He didn't need history books. He just needed that one moment, that quiet reckoning. Because in the end, leadership isn't judged by applause or approval ratings. It's judged in the silence that follows the choices you've made, when no one's watching, and the only person left to answer to is yourself. Some burdens are carried in the public eye, others are whispered at gravesides. But the heaviest of all are the ones that come from being trusted, then falling short of that trust. The question is never whether we fail. It's whether we're willing to kneel in the dirt years later and finally say, "I heard you, I remember you. I'm still trying to be worthy of the belief you once had in me."